shift into the NFL. We're done for the NBA talk for the day. The NFL draft happened, and we're going to go over which teams had the best draft and which team had the worst draft. Each of us are going to name one team in specific that we feel like had the best draft. So we're going to start off with the best and go from the worst. So, Riv, tell me your team. Which team had the best draft in your opinion?
I got to go last. My thing can load up.
You're thinking a little up? Okay.
I'll go.
Okay, you can go first.
I'll go. First and foremost, for a lot of people that don't know, I am a Giants fan. And
should have never told the media that.
Don't worry about everything. I believe that we had a great draft. Well, I don't think it was the best draft out of the whole entire league. We had an amazing draft. That trade down was huge. Grabbing the Chicago pick, which could very well be a top 10 pick, it's great. So that's very well vested into my decision to put them close to one of the best drafts, especially with Tony's a beast. Anyways, back to the main point. The best draft was the Jets. I'll just say it first and foremost. I despise them. They're little bro to the Giants. That's just the way it goes. But their draft was just it was amazing. They grabbed who they wanted in a sense, and they did it without any. There was no friction, and every pick just landed towards them in a sense. Like Elijah Moore grabbing him when they got him. Michael Carter is a stud. He's a stud. A lot of people didn't watch UNC, and if you did, next year Sam Howell was going to be an amazing quarterback. But going back to it, Michael Carter's amazing. Vera Tucker, that was a great pickup, and that's going to solidify the future for their offensive line, especially with Beekton there. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in a couple of years. I don't think this year is going to be the year where they're just going to jump into the playoffs right away. If they do, then props to them. They have the pieces. I don't think they're going to just fall into place just yet. But their draft was just phenomenal. I mean, you go down the list, they grabbed two safeties that I believe, Sherwood and Carter, that were great. Ecolis, the cornerback from Kentucky, was great value from when you guys grabbed him. Nazaruddin, I don't want to mess his name up, from Florida State, was also great. It was just an overall great draft, and you addressed offense, which was much needed. I mean, after watching what the Raiders did to you guys in that game, and it wasn't really supposed to happen, but it happened. There's a lot of holes that you guys filled, and that was just quintessential.
For me, I think this was hard to pick because three of these teams had similar drafts to me in terms of how good it was. I did not go with the Jets. I'm not going to be a homer on this episode, even though I think we did have a great draft. But the Vikings, to me, had a great draft. Drafting Christian Darrisaw with the 23rd pick. Then getting Kellen Mond, who I'm really high on. Wyatt Davis, a starting guard in this league. And Patrick Jones II, who I think can be a really good edge rusher for them if developed correctly. But then you have the Bears. I mean, the Bears drafting Justin Fields, who I'm not the highest on, but, he is in a good situation to develop. Then Tevin Jenkins, who's going to be a starting left tackle, plays really physical.
He's great.
Daz Newsome, wide receiver from North Carolina, played alongside Diami Brown. Then Larry Burham, who he fell to the Bears in the 5th round, I believe, and this guy had the lowest pressure percentage out of every single tackle in the draft. And Khalil Herbert, running back out of Virginia Tech. I mean, the Bears had a phenomenal draft, but also the Chargers, like Rashawn Slater, getting Justin Herbert's tackle for the future and Slater. Then Asante Samuel Jr., who is a perfect scheme fit for Brandon Staley's defense. Like, I think, and these three teams had great, phenomenal drafts. Like, I think they're cream of the crop in terms of how they drafted. I would probably give the edge to the Bears, honestly.
Really?
Yes, because I think the Bears getting Tevin, like the Bears at every single pick they got these guys at, like Tevin Jenkins, a first-round talent. Justin Fields could have easily went top 5. Then we look at Khalil Herbert, who can be a really solid back. Daz Newsome and Larry Burham. Like, I think realistically, these guys are like 5 starters that they got. Like, I think the Vikings also did well with Darrisaw, Ahmad, and Wyatt Davis. But if we're talking about players who are going to make an impact year one right away, I think the Bears got the most, like, NFL-ready guys. Like, Kellen Mond is going to need some time to develop. So is Patrick Jones II for the Vikings. The Chargers, I think, outside of Rashawn Slater and Asante Samuel Jr., Like, most of these guys are developmental guys like Trey McKitty and stuff. So I think in terms of NFL-ready guys day one right now, the Bears probably had the best one, honestly.
Bro, stole my pick.
Huh?
He stole
The
my
Bears,
pick.
really?
Yeah.
You too? Wow.
Yeah, I had the Bears having the best draft. Only because, like, when me and Joel was talking about this last week, he was telling me how, like, the Bears have never had a quarterback to, like, have, like, I think, was it 4K or 3K yards in the
4K
season?
passing yards.
4K passing yards in the season. And I was just doing my research, you know, going over the quarterbacks they had. And, like, getting Justin Fields at that value was impressive because I'm high on Justin Fields. I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He can be one of the best quarterbacks in this draft. And not only with that, with getting offensive linemen after Justin Fields at the places they got him, I think that was impressive. You know, getting that need at quarterback, somebody that they need to build a future on, you know, because they haven't had a superstar quarterback, and getting that was impressive. So I think them, and then not to mention, bro, like getting Khalil Herbert, like he had already said everything, you know, Daz Newman. I don't think you mentioned Toga. Did you mention Toga, the defensive tackle they got around 7?
No, he's from BYU
big
though.
Big guy, quick mover. You know, he's good. I had to do, you know, for me to do my research. But I think with this draft, like the Bears did have a really good draft. You know, getting Justin Fields obviously was the number one thing, but filling up that offensive line because they already got weapons, I think that was the most impressive thing. And since it's my go again, I'm gonna tell you the worst draft. I think the Houston Texans easily had the worst draft just because of the simple fact that round 1 and round 2, we can all agree, had so much talent, and they didn't have a pick in those rounds. I think missing out on guys in the first round was terrible for them. You know, getting guys who, like, we was drafting. I mean, we was on live for the first round. You know, getting guys that's that talented, superstar changers. Round 2, you had some guys who were still left that can be game changers. The Texans missing out on round 1 and 2 this year, I think it was really bad. And I think it's going to hurt them in their development because those guys could have been game changers and could have maybe pushed the needle on the Deshaun Watson situation. I'm not too sure, but losing out on that first 2 rounds was big for them, and I think that's why they're the losers of this draft.
Honestly, I don't think anybody the Texans drafted would have changed where they were at. I mean, they drafted Davis Mills. That's the only thing you can really argue with. But Davis Mills, I don't think he's better than Kellen Mond. But I can understand why Davis Mills got drafted there, but I don't really think he's going to develop. You know, I don't think he's going to be that good of a quarterback. So because of that, obviously that's why I don't think the Texans had a great draft. But they also had no picks.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. The worst draft was the Seahawks. They had 3 picks. They drafted Dwayne Eskridge. I think he's an okay receiver. He kind of resembles Tyler Lockett. And they drafted Trey Brown, cornerback out of Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's had a history of having horrific defenses. And then they drafted Stone Forsythe, offensive tackle out of Florida. And, you know, I don't know how good he is, but 3 guys. I mean, for this to be a successful draft for the Seahawks, all 3 of these guys have to pan out, you know, basically.
I looked at the Seahawks as more of like an incomplete because you really can't grade them because they didn't have the picks to really grade a sense, especially a quintessential first round, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just to mention with the Bears and the Chargers, I think the Chargers did have a better draft on them only because of the gamble they took on Fields. If you're going to go out and get a quarterback the way they did it because you gave up the next first round pick. So now if Fields doesn't pan out next year or injury or something hard, you just lost a top 5 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we really put the strings together, Dalton's not leading them anywhere. Fields right now, I don't think they're going to lead them anywhere. You're losing a top 10 pick to get Fields, so this better pan out in a sense. So because of the gamble and because of the of getting Slater and of getting, you know, Asante Samuel Jr., that just to me, it just puts the security blanket for me, so that puts him ahead. Now going back to the worst draft, the Raiders are just for sure. You know, for someone who had a first round pick and everything, they picked up Leatherwood, which I believe was just a reach and a half for no reason. Realistically, they had other needs and they had players that for those needs that were there, at linebacker as well, and they just decided to do what they do best and to just mess things up in whatever way they can. Now we'll give them credit. Moran was a great pickup as a safety from TCU. He's amazing. To me, that was a great pickup. I actually wanted him to follow the Giants. The Giants ended up trading back again, so on and so forth. Cons, they picked them up, which I believe was also a reach out of Buffalo. That didn't really make sense to me in a sense, considering they did need what they needed. And then he proceeded to draft more safeties after picking up Moran. So it's kind of like, where are you really leading this team for? What are you really doing? And then after that, I believe they picked up, let me see, they picked up a corner from Hobbs from Illinois, and then they picked up a center, Mauricio from Pittsburgh. All in all, that draft to me was more of, you're looking at that team, and we're going to get into this later with Aaron Rodgers, where you can make a change at quarterback and kind of put yourself in a position to kind of battle in that division. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with the teams that are there. But they didn't put themselves in a better position that they already were, in my opinion. I don't think they got better. I don't think they did anything that has, like, for the potential for the future to make themselves better than what they are now. And for that reason, I believe they had the worst draft.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Raiders definitely had a bad draft. Out the Cowboys, too. I mean, they picked up a corner to Deshaun Wright, who said that he's faster or something, Richard Sherman, which is crazy.
Oh, that was that guy.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Deshaun Wright. So
A lot of people are faster.
Well, I'm not going to lie. He fits the Cowboys. So.
Oh, yeah, faster Richard Sherman. So we'll see what he turns into, but that's a lot of confidence for that guy, you know.
Michael Parsons.